Alright guys, now that March Madness is starting, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite teams, some upsets, and some betting advice for the tournament. Before I begin though, MyBookie has generously agreed to sponsor this video. They want to offer anybody that signs up a 50% bonus. Go ahead and use promotion code Samuel in order to take advantage of this offer. So before we really begin though, you should see some red and yellow circles on your screen. A red circle indicates any game where I think the lower ranked team should upset. A yellow circle on the other hand is where I strongly considered picking the upset, but I end up picking the favorite. Now I didn't pick a ton of lower ranked teams, but this should give you a rough guide on who I think has a chance. So starting with the South region, I think UVA is the team to beat. They have the best defense in the country and their offense is very underrated. I am a bit worried about their Sweet 16 game versus Kentucky or Arizona, but I think whoever makes it to this point, UVA should still be able to handle it. From an upset standpoint, Loyola Chicago and Texas are my picks. I think both of these teams are surprisingly good and have drawn pretty good matchups. Now in the East region, I don't have many upsets. I think Nova over West Virginia should be a good game, as well as Texas Tech against Purdue. Speaking of Texas Tech, they are one of those teams this year where I have no idea how well they'll play. They seem to play well against good teams, but they also lost a few key games at the end of the season. Regardless, and just like the South region, I think the 1 seed is going to move on. Jumping to the West region, I think Gonzaga will advance. They made an awesome run last year, and I think they're going to do the same thing this year. Their schedule actually looks pretty tough with Ohio State, Xavier, and possibly Michigan, but they check all the boxes and are a top 10 team according to KenPom. In the last region, I feel like Michigan State has been a fan favorite of many. Their three-point shooting is awesome at 41%, while they're also a top offensive rebounding team as well. Duke and Kansas could give them trouble, but I feel like they are too good of a team to lose. Before I move on, I wasn't that impressed by the top half of this region. Both Clemson and Auburn are dealing with injuries, and I could easily see 2 upsets in the first round. For this bracket, I only picked Auburn, but I feel like Clemson is another team that could be knocked out. Finally, for my final 4, I have UVA, Gonzaga, Michigan State, and Villanova. While I absolutely do love UVA's defense, a team that has averaged less than 70 points per game hasn't won the tournament since 1985. The Bulldogs are a well-rounded team, and I just feel like with another shot at the national championship, Gonzaga is going to win it. Now for some betting advice, here are my top 5 picks. The first is taking UNC Greensboro with the points against Gonzaga. Historically, 4 seeds are 6 and 13 against the spread when favored by 10 or more points. Additionally, since the difference in KenPom rankings isn't that big, I see this game being close. I still think the Bulldogs will win, but I don't see this being a blowout. The second bet I have is taking CSU Fullerton to cover. Historically, a 15 seed as a 20-point or more underdog has covered 7 of the last 10 games. Those odds are definitely good enough for me. The third on my list is taking Tennessee as a favorite. A 3 seed that is ranked higher than 100 spots in KenPom is 8-4 against the spread. Just like the Gonzaga game, I feel like this one will be a lot closer than it should be. Now the final 2 games on this list are Charleston and Auburn and New Mexico State and Clemson. I've already talked about both these games, but based on their relative rankings and injuries, I can see both as potential upsets. Regardless, even if they don't win, I believe they should still be able to cover. Well, I hope you enjoy the tournament, and later this week I'll be jumping back to football. I'm not sure exactly which prospect I'll be studying, but make sure you subscribe to my channel to find out. Thanks for watching, and you can follow me on Twitter at SamuelRGold.